Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Talking TV with my mum, the weekly Geek-Dom Roundup review podcast where we talk about various geek/genre TV shows and give our review and our opinions and our take on various things. So thank you very much for joining us again. In this week's show, we are going to be talking about the newest episodes of Fear the Walking Dead, Stranger Things. We're going to continue with our discussions on Stranger Things Season 3, so it'll be the 6th episode, and also the newest episode of Preacher. And we'll also have a few comments and a little bit of news, not so much this week as we've had previously. Just the usual housekeeping things. If you enjoy this podcast, then please hit that thumbs up button and leave us a like. That would be hugely appreciated to let us know that you're enjoying what we do. And also leave us comments down below. We'd love to hear from you, and obviously we go through them on the podcast. And if you have questions for us or any feedback on the programs or your take or your opinions, then we'll talk about them. And also subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I'd love to have you become part of the Geek-Dom that we're building. We're getting bigger and bigger as time goes by, so it would be great to have you on board. So please hit that subscribe button, click the bell so you're notified whenever I upload, all that kind of good stuff that YouTubers tell you to do. And also check out my description box for the timestamps for today's episode, and also the link to my Twitter so you can come and chat and follow me on there, and also the donation mediums if you should feel generous enough to donate to help support the podcast and help support the channel and help me to do bigger and better things in the future. Then your help would be greatly appreciated, but at the same time you're under no obligation to do so. That's that all out the way, so I will welcome my co-host. So hello there, Mum, are you there?
Hello, Dom. Yes, I'm here.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm off to Skagate the weekend, so I'm all good.
Yeah, so we're actually, disclaimer for you good folks listening at home, we're recording this a day earlier than we normally do, so we've had to sort of make sure that we got all the programmes watched in good time and everything so that we could record this so that Mum could get off on her holiday.
Yes, we can't leave you guys hanging, so we had to make sure we did it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously you were happy with the last podcast. You put a very amusing listen.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, it was funny listening back to it though, like when I was editing it and stuff, how much news there was. Like when I was looking at the times, and it was like, there was like almost, I think it was like between 25 and 28 minutes worth of like news and comments and things like that outside of the actual reviews of the episodes, which was crazy.
You do talk a lot.
Well, I like to, keep people up to date in case they're missing certain things. I mean, I scour the internet. I watch and listen to podcasts and I read various news things to find out all the latest goings on in the world of geek. So this might be the only place that people get that news, so at least that way we're delivering informative content to the listeners.
Indeed. So what you got for this week then, Dom?
Right, okay, well I'll do the news first and then we'll do the comments. So
hang on. Dong. Rattling of paper.
Hello, good evening and welcome. So
Go on then. Knock us out, Trevor.
Just a couple of things. So the first thing is touching back on something I mentioned last week, which was about The Mandalorian, which is the Star Wars TV show. And I mentioned I was struggling to remember what Ming-Na Wen from Agent May from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., what she was going to be involved in, and then I remembered it was The Mandalorian. There'd been a trailer come out for it. Oh, Mum, it looks so good.
Was it?
Considering it's a TV show, it looks like the quality is film quality.
Is it on Netflix?
No, it's going to be on the Disney Plus streaming service, which unfortunately, us in the UK, they've got no release date for it yet, so we are going to have to find other sources to view some of these programs, shall we say.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, there's no word yet as to when Disney Plus is coming out over here, but we'll be able to find ways to watch the programs. But it looks so good, and now a view of some more of the cast that's in it. So along with Ming-Na Wen, you might not know who this guy is, but people listening will. So the bounty hunter's got like a robot sidekick that's kind of like almost like a cowboy robot, and he's like a gunslinger and stuff. And he's being voiced by a guy called Taika Waititi, who is a director. He's a New Zealand film director who directed the last Thor movie, and is also the voice of, there's this like rock alien character called Korg. He does the voice for him. So he's doing the voice for this alien,
Okay.
this robot, sorry. And also Nick Nolte is going to be in this show. So you've got Nick Nolte, Ming-Na Wen. You've also got Giancarlo Esposito, the guy that was the magic mirror in Once Upon a Time.
Oh, yes.
And he was also in, what was that other program we watched?
Oh, yeah, he was in something else,
That
wasn't
was
he?
like, it was it the one that had Sawyer from Lost in? Where it was like set in it was like a post-apocalyptic future.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't it also the woman out of Walking Dead in?
Yeah, I think so.
That thing I used to watch, yeah. I know, yeah, yeah.
And
I know who he is anyway.
He was a bad guy, wasn't he? It was like,
yeah.
wasn't he? Oh, I want to say he was like a sheriff or a lawman of some kind, but he was like really ruthless.
He was
like
bad, yeah,
really
really
horrible.
Yeah.
So he's in this, and again, he's a baddie. What a surprise! So that's another member of the cast, and also who else was in it? There was somebody else of note. Oh, Carl Weathers, who played Apollo Creed in the Rocky movies.
Okay.
He's in it as well. So there's quite a few notable names in this show, and it just looks really, really good. Like, when I watched the trailer, I was just like, wow, this looks like it could be a film, but it's a TV show. So, yeah, I was impressed. So that's going to be exciting. That comes out, I think that's in November. That starts on the Disney Plus service, so that should be quite interesting to watch. So that's that bit of news.
Yeah.
The other bit of news was related to another show that we watched that's coming back next year, which is Altered Carbon.
Oh.
The Netflix show with
We're back.
the body swapping and all of that stuff. Yeah, that's going to be back for a second season. And we've got a couple of new casting announcements for that. So the lead character, what was his name? Takeshi Kovac was the main guy that was in it. If you remember, at the end of because he was in I'm trying to remember whose body he was in. The guy he was in, he was like really muscular, wasn't he? And there was like lots of gratuitous shots of him half naked quite a lot. And then it turned out he was actually an Asian guy. He was like a Japanese guy or something originally, like the original body when we got to see his flashbacks. And he was like a little Asian guy. Well, he's obviously going to have a new body in this new series. And they've announced that it's going to be Anthony Mackie, who plays Falcon in the Marvel movies. And was also in, you know that episode of Black Mirror where it was all about the fighting game?
Oh, okay.
The guy that was the main guy, not the friend, but the main guy.
The other guy.
Yeah. So he's going to be playing Takeshi Kovacs in this series.
Okay.
And also Misty Knight from Luke Cage has also joined the cast.
Ooh.
And she's going to be I think she's going to be playing some kind of, like not a police officer, but some kind of law person, because they go to this, I think, I'm remembering in the first series, there was this place they kept talking about, I think it was called Harlan's World or something. I don't remember much about it, so hopefully there'll be a recap when the series comes on. But I remember there being this place called Harlan's World, which was another planet, and it was like almost like a Wild West planet or something. But she's something to do with that, and she's like the law on that planet or something. So I presume she'll become like an ally of our hero along the way. But no, I just thought it was cool because I thought she's a good actress. She was really good in Luke Cage as Misty Knight, so it'll be cool. And in obviously she was in Iron Fist a little bit as well, so it'll be good to see her show back up again on a new show.
Well, she'll have a iron arm.
Yeah, no, I don't think she's got the metal arm, unfortunately. That would have been pretty cool if she did. But... So yeah, so they're the two show-related things. I mean, the other thing is they released a little sort of short new trailer for the newest Star Wars movie that comes out at the end of the year. And yeah, I mean, they're really playing on the whole legacy stuff, because a lot of the trailer shows clips and things from the previous movies, and you get to see, obviously Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you get to see Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker and Carrie Fisher and things like that. And then it shows some of the clips from the newer movies, and then there's about 20 seconds or so, maybe 30 seconds worth of new footage from the new movie that's coming out at the end of this year. But yeah, it looks all right. I mean, I'm reserving judgment because the last movie, there's mixed. I'm not going to get into the politics and the ins and outs of stuff to do with that last film, but there's mixed opinions on whether or not this one's going to be any good. But I'm holding out hope it will be, because it's the finale of this story. It's the end of the Skywalker story. So hopefully it's going to be good and they'll go out with a bang before Disney inevitably launch into a whole host of spin-off movies and things going forward. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what that's like. But that trailer's out there for those of you interested in Star Wars that haven't yet seen it. And that's about it, because it's not been that long since we recorded the last podcast, because, we've had a shortened time frame, so there hasn't been much in the way of news and stuff coming out about TV shows and things over the course of this week. I suppose there's been a bit of a lull after all the announcements that came out last week for the D23 stuff. No real new updates on Spider-Man yet. I mean, it seems like they haven't, solved anything yet, but there's still hope that they're going to. But yeah, that's about it. So that's the news, everybody.
Okay.
That was
Ready?
the news.
Rattle, rattle of the paper.
And now back to the studio. So
Back to you, Dom, in the studio.
So then we go on to our comments. So again, because of the abbreviated sort of time frame this week, we haven't really had much in the way of comments. Skippy only managed to get his in sort of late last night, but we've got a couple of comments from Will and from Skippy. So
Okay. Cool, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much again for your comments, guys. Appreciated. So firstly, Will says, some great comments this week, peeps. Nice hearing back from everybody. And then there's me. Oh, don't do yourself down. And then he said in relation to the question about the live podcasting, and he said, don't let me down, Mum. And then afterwards he went, Mum said yes, woohoo! He then goes on to say that he was going to start a Twitter campaign to ensure that we could do the live episode and to get enough people together to actually make it worth our while.
Oh,
so
great.
We'll see if that happens.
Mm.
He said he's still behind on Fear, but catching up, and everything else I'm yet to watch. But of course, I watched, listened, and learnt to every minute. Very in-depth coverage and wonderful as always.
Mm.
He then also said, up until recently, he knew nothing about Disney and never really watched any as a kid, which really surprised me.
What? How old is he?
So, well, he's a little bit younger than me, but not massively. But it's like,
Never watched Disney.
what did you watch as a kid, Will? If you didn't watch any Disney, like, were you like Harry Potter? Were you in the cupboard under the stairs?
Yeah.
So I found that quite surprising because, most people have at least encountered some Disney in their lifetime. So that was a bit of a shock. But he said it's always nice to learn more about them, and especially now that they own a lot of my favourite franchises. He's then also challenged me personally. He said he was thinking about how we test each other in TV knowledge. Well, I presume he meant just me, because he didn't say both of us. He just said, I was thinking, how about we test each other in TV knowledge?
Okay.
Oh, no. It was for both of us. Yeah, sorry, I read that wrong. I was thinking, how about we test each other in TV knowledge, Fear, Lucifer, etc. Would love to see you and Ma battling it out. Oh, not between us and him, between you and me. All right, well, Will, if you give us some parameters, we can maybe, because that's quite loose at the moment, so if you give us some idea of how that would work and stuff,
We're up for it.
Yeah, we'd
for it.
try it out and go head to head.
Yeah.
And then his final part, because again I replied to him, I won't read my reply, but then the final part he said was that the stuff to do with the Disney Marvel stuff and Spider-Man, he enjoyed hearing me talk about it. Lots of people talking about it, but you made sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, you condense it into okay. Because you can read and hear lots of stuff, but the way you sort of broke it down into sort of, I agree.
He said he was confused on the whole issue, but he gets it a bit more now. So,
Hey.
So I'm glad that I was able to, to sort of make that clearer for you. So, I appreciate that.
Good.
So there we go. So thank you very much, Will, for those bits and pieces there. And then,
always.
As we say, Skippy jumped in at the 11th hour.
Skippy!
He said that to mention that he was loving the episode so far. So I assume at the time he wrote the comments, he hadn't quite finished the podcast, but he was enjoying it. So that's cool.
Mm.
He says, howdy Geek-Dom and Geek-Mom. And he says, sorry for not posting a comment last week. To make up for it, I have a Skippy's pouch question for both of you. Here we go. What is your favourite sci-fi film and why?
Well, personally, let's think. Probably Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Oh, good pick.
That is just everything. That is just a brilliant film.
Mm.
That you can watch that years and years later and it's still got the same message and it's brilliant. And obviously I'm a massive UFO geek as it is. So yeah, that is my favourite film, I think. I watch a lot of sci-fi films, but yeah, I love that. That's a great film. What about you?
It's really tough because I've got quite a lot that I really like. So picking out one as my favourite is really tough. But if I was pushed, I would expand this a little bit and say series as opposed to just one individual film. And it would be the Back to the Future trilogy. Because I just love those movies so much. And they're the kind of films that I can watch. I'm one of these weird people in that, like, with movies, I enjoy watching films. And obviously I have DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff like that. But it takes me a long time to be able to go back and rewatch a film after I've watched it because my memory, I just remember everything that's going to happen. But there are certain things that I can go back and I can watch over and over again regardless.
That is classic as well, yeah.
And Back to the Future I can always watch and it never gets old and it never fails to make me laugh and it never fails to entertain me. And, I love the characters, I love the actors. I love the world they created and the science and everything that they created for those films. And the settings, and the fact that it's so different that you've got like you've got the 50s and then you've got the future and then you've got the Wild West. So you've got this blend of different timelines and things like that. And it's good family fun as well. It's good, wholesome entertainment.
And they're always mentioning it in all sorts of programs, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
It crops up in lots of programs we've watched over time.
Yeah.
There's always references to Back to the Future.
Even in the newest season of Stranger Things, that Back to the Future features in that.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
I mean, we haven't got to that bit in our reviews yet, but
they have mentioned it. Yeah.
It is a part of that series. So, but yeah, it's just an all-time classic, and I never get bored of watching those films. So cool. Yeah, so I think Back to the Future would be my top pick, but yeah, very tricky question because there are so many that I love.
Yeah, me too.
Same to you though, Skippy.
Back at you, Skippy.
What is your favourite sci-fi film or series of all time and why?
Yeah.
So that's basically it for the comments. So thank you very much, guys. We appreciate the fact that we can rely on you to always give us something to talk about or think about or a question to answer or whatever. So very grateful for that. Thank you.
Cool.
So so that will do for that section. So now we're going to actually move on to the reviews and we're going to move on to our first show, which is Fear the Walking Dead. And this episode was called You're Still Here.
Yep.
Before we get into it, all I will say is I found this week's episode to be a bit of a mixed bag. It was good at points, and there were other points that made me go, really? Or whatever. So
me too.
It was a very up and down episode.
Yeah.
So would you like to kick us off?
I'll start, yeah. Well, obviously, I think it was in last week's episode, Alicia had been going on about her new mission is to find out who paints on the trees.
Yep.
So basically, we started off with her looking at the trees with writing on and wondering. And then there was a walker in the bush.
Yeah.
And she started panicking because now she's not going out blatantly killing them. And it got free but fell over. But then a load more started coming. And instead of her doing a normal thing, she just panicked and shouted to Strand to help her.
Yeah.
And anyway, he sorted them all out for her. And then he just said, what do you expect? What do you expect to find when you find the person that's done this? She just didn't seem to know, did she?
No.
She was just like, this is her new thing. So anyway, then they get a message on the walkie saying, is that Alicia?
Yeah.
And he said, who are you? No, first of all, hello. And she said, who are you? And he said, is that Alicia? Bit of her like, oh, okay. And then Strand said, oh, maybe they heard our videos. He grabbed the phone and the guy referred to him as Mitch or something.
Referred to who as Mitch?
Strand.
Did he? Oh, I don't know.
He kept calling him Mitch. He said, no, Strand. And blah, blah, blah. He said he'd seen the thing and he said, who are you? And he said, my name's Wes. And also, you remember this, the guy from a couple of weeks ago, I think it was.
Yeah.
That found the videos and got his bike shot to pieces by Logan's guys.
That's right.
Who then took everything off him apart from the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So he told them where they were. They found him. They put his bike on the truck and he told them what had happened with the Logan thing. And then he said he was on his way home and his brother was waiting.
Yeah.
So they said they'll take him back to where he was going. So off they went. We had a little small snippet where we saw Morgan again, who'd now finally caught up with Al, and they were killing zombies in a bank.
Yes, that's right. It was weird as well because we never got to see him track her down. It was just
No,
like
he was just there.
he was just there. He found her. So I suppose we're meant to just connect the dots and say, well, when he said he was going off to meet up with Al, he already was aware of the vicinity she was in, so he was
Yeah.
able to go and find her. So we didn't need to see that scene of him like traveling
No.
and meeting up with
So
her.
basically, the reason they were in the bank is because she had, I think she said she had an interview with a bank manager there years ago, and she knew how to get into the vault.
Yeah,
So she wanted to store all the tapes in the vault. Now the slogan thing, because they're so precious,
yeah.
I can't have anything happening to them. So that was the point was why they were there. So we go back to the Alicia and the gang, and they got to where this West wanted to be dropped off, and it was a police station.
That's right.
So he said, I'm going to go in and see my brother, tell him what's going on. And they said, yeah, all right, we'll unload your bike and leave you some more gas or whatever. And then we hear a shot, some noise. And then this guy comes running out of the bank, the police station, sorry, and takes off in their truck.
Yeah, and he'd obviously been shot as well.
Yeah, I said there was a gunshot.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that there was a gunshot, but he'd obviously been the one that was shot because he was holding his side, but he still managed to get in their truck and drive away.
So basically, they're stuck there. There's walkers everywhere, basically.
Hmm.
So a lot of the episode was around this, how they were going to get out of the place. Then Wes had an idea. In the cars, there were some guns.
It was
So
police riot gear, wasn't it?
riot gear and that, and he threw one to Strand, and he shot it, but it was tear gas,
Yeah.
and it went in his eyes, so he obviously was blinded from this.
This was quite a cool moment again, though, because every so often they do something unique on these programs, and the image of this walker, this zombie, like roaming around with this tear gas canister embedded in it,
Yeah,
spewing out all of this, the smoke, the tear gas, was a pretty cool image. It was pretty cool seeing that, and obviously Strand trying to cope with it and telling them to get inside. That because obviously with the whole thing with Alicia not fighting and stuff, he was like, "I'll
yeah,
take care of this. You get out of here." And it just looked visually, it looked pretty cool because you had other walkers in the distance ambling towards them, and this one sort of around Strand,
smoking.
and he's
He's,
trying
he's,
to see.
he's smoking.
Yeah. And he's obviously struggling to see it because it's obviously making his eyes sting and everything like
Yeah,
that. But I thought it was quite a cool image, that bit. I was like, oh, that's quite a unique idea.
yeah. So anyway, he got back inside, and Alicia was trying to like put water on his eyes and that, and I think isn't that when she said to him that obviously wasn't your brother then?
Yeah, that's right.
And was that when he admitted he didn't have a brother?
He said he hadn't had a brother for a while, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, something like that. So she was a bit pissed off about that, fair.
And it was the real reason he wanted to go back there was that he wanted to get something.
Well, he was looking for something, wasn't he? And she
Mm,
goes, what are you looking for? He said, I left something here. And I think he's gone off with it.
yeah.
So she said, so you just shot a guy, he's now going to die. And it wasn't even, there was just because you were trying to find something.
Hmm.
She goes, we need to find him because it's not fair because, if he dies, he turns and he's dead.
Yeah.
So she got on the blower to Morgan
Hmm.
and told him what was going on and asked them if they'd look out for this injured guy. Because at the time they couldn't actually get out of this police station because there was zombies everywhere.
But this proved to be a mistake.
Well, yeah, because they obviously decided, yeah, they'll go off, and off they went to see if they could find this guy.
Mm.
And along the way they ran into Logan's crew.
Yeah, so they blocked the road with their big lorry, and they were just all stood there blocking the path, basically. What did he say as well? He said something like he had a line or something about like what he was trying to do is bigger than them, or something like that. Like his plans are bigger than they are, or something. It's like it was very vague and very kind of villainy. But he's a weird villain. Like this whole scene was very strange because in previous seasons where we've had the big bad, that would be the moment where they would like have a shootout or they would capture them or something like this. And it was just this weird conversation where all of his guys were stood around menacingly with their weapons and stuff, and he was just chatting to them.
Asking him where the oil fields were and
Yeah.
chat. Yeah, he was just talking, wasn't he?
And he was just like using his truck to threaten them. He was just kind of like, well, if you don't
you
tell
can't
me,
get this way
you're not
because
going
the
to go
truck's
this
in the way. Yeah.
I don't know. It was just really straight. It was like, this is really odd bad guy tactics.
But then he started talking about Morgan's wife, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Because he'd obviously turned the tape as well, and Morgan lost it then, didn't he?
Yeah, and he even said to him, didn't he, after Morgan went for him, he said, well, if you don't want people knowing your business, then don't put it out there for people to see, kind of thing. Don't put it on film. If you're going to react that way.
Well, yeah, because that was the only time they really turned the guns on him when he had Logan. All the others were like, and then Al was sort of calming him down. So come on, and they just literally let them leave, didn't they?
Yeah.
Just like literally, just intimidate. We're still after you. We want this information, and then they just got back in the car.
Yep.
So they were obviously had gone off. So basically, I think Wes then admitted to Alicia what he was looking for, and she was like so angry, wasn't she? She's like, again, you shot somebody, so something like that. And she had to then, they realised they were all surrounding the building. He said he'd try and get out the back way and distract them.
Yeah.
So, and then Alicia was like, I got to step up now. So she grabbed hold of the things she used to use to kill everything. Strand wasn't happy with that, but she's like, I've got to do something. And then when they broke in, didn't they?
Yeah.
He was killing some outside, but they got in. And I think, did she get one of them? And then there was another one, and Strand grabbed the thing. He says, I can sort of see them, just guide me. And he was like, I'll get them.
No, she didn't get any. She was trying to, but she kind of she froze up. And there was at the moment when she had the weird flashes to when she...
Oh, when she was killing everything,
previously. And she just froze. Yeah. And then luckily Strand was there again. And even though he couldn't see, he was just basically like, well, if you guide me, you tell me where they are, and I'll be able to deal with them, sort of thing. So even half blind, he was still there to sort of save her.
Yeah, but luckily, because Wes was outside killing them outside, he managed to, the last one, I think that was the last one that was coming towards him, he shot it from the door.
Yeah.
Saved the day, basically. Also, I mean, we had the bit with Alan Morgan about his wife. You want to talk about when she was asking him questions about it in the truck?
Nah, I mean, it was just, he found out, because she apologised to him because she said that bit where he was talking openly made the cut that they put out there.
She apologised, she put it on the video, didn't she?
And she was like, that's how he knew, because he couldn't understand. He was like, but, I didn't think that bit was going to go on the video kind of thing. I thought that was just conversation. And she apologised about all of that. And then he was sort of just talking about resolutions and about coming to terms with it all still. And that sort of ties, in a lot of ways, you then tie back to what you said, your speculation the other week about why he left and stuff, because of how much he likes Grace. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, he's still dealing with what happened with his family. He's only just coming to terms with it now. He's then getting close to this other person who potentially he's going to lose again. So he wanted to distance himself from that. And it was just more like sharing my feelings kind of thing.
Yeah, just a sharing moment, wasn't it? So we go back to the action then. So we had Strand and the gang got in a car, set off to look for this guy, and they saw the car with the guy, their truck.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, feared the worst. Sorry, mate. Got here too late.
Yeah.
And then you could see the guy. He was like limping, wasn't he?
And it looked like you were like he turned. It's like, oh, I was waiting for the moment.
They just presumed he was an undead, didn't they? Because the way he was walking, and he goes, well, I've got to get my stuff. So he ran after him. And it turned out he wasn't dead. He turned around and was like, whoa, he's still alive.
Yeah.
So then there was a fight, and then the old boy grabbed Wes on the ground by his throat.
Yeah, and he was trying to choke him to death. Yeah.
And then he stabbed him in the side, I think it was. And he was on about, he wanted his thing, this manuscript. He said, oh, you wrote that.
Yeah. And he said that he just wanted
to get it finished.
He wanted to finish it, yeah. And it's like, this is, like I said, the whole up and down thing. So we had all this stuff with this character, Wes, that got introduced a couple of weeks back. He meets up with our core cast. We have this little mission. We find out that it's a manuscript, a book that he's been writing. And that's what all this squabble was about with this man. And then you're like, really? Like, what? Like, this, these two guys were willing to kill each other over a book that he wrote. I just found it all a bit like, I just sat there and went, what? It just didn't click with me at all.
No, it was weird, wasn't it? Was it, so they buried the guy?
Yeah.
While they were burying, no, did Morgan and that catch up to them?
Well, what happened next was, so he stabbed the guy, rolled him off, they had the little conversation. Then Strand and Alicia were just kind of completely baffled about the fact that you just stabbed this guy over this manuscript. Yeah. And then he was just kind of like, don't want it anymore. And he like threw it down, and he's kind of like, well, he can, he deserves it. He was willing to die for it. And then he just upped and left.
Like walking away, yeah.
And it's like, oh, all right then. That was the end of your pointless character introduction. Like, that's you've gone, and that's the end of that. So then you had the whole bit where they were burying him, and
that's when
Morgan and
Alicia started reading the manuscript, and there was a bit at the end, and she goes, "That's what's on those trees."
The "you're still here. If you're reading this, you're still here" thing. Yeah.
She went, "Oh, so obviously Wes did the writing on the trees."
And that was another disappointment, because then it was like, oh, okay, so he was the one going around painting all the trees.
Because we were hoping it was going to be Thingy's missus.
Dwight's wife, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, lame. And then and then she decided, I'm going to start doing that too.
Yes.
God's
sake. She was inspired to do her own message of hope. And so she painted this tree blue and then drew a dove on it.
I know, we must sound really awful while we're going, oh, how boring. It was like, oh, okay. Okay, yeah, she's learned to fight a little bit now, but now she's painting trees blue and writing on them. And I just thought, whatever. But the best bit was that near the end, we heard this really loud noise, and then something bulldozed into the bank.
Yes.
And it was Logan and his crew, and they're having a look in, obviously, the safety deposit boxes anyway to see what was in there. And he found all the tapes.
Yeah.
And he goes, right, let's have a listen to these then, see what these people are all about.
He was hoping to find the journals there, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Because he said basically the reason they found the place was because they'd come out to them and they'd pieced together the location of like where they were, the vicinity. So they sort of followed them to a point and then were like, right, this is obviously where they hold up. So he put all of these pieces together and was able to deduce that they were using this bank vault. And then they, like you said, they were going through the tapes, and he was like, they have to be here somewhere. And he's like, well, they're obviously not here. And it's like, well, what are we going to do now then? And he was like, looked at the tapes, and there was one, was it the Morgan one he picked up? And he just said, we're going to start looking through these, and somebody's got to have mentioned something.
Somebody should have mentioned something somewhere. It's like, ooh.
So that was that. And the only other thing was that to do with the paintings that Alicia did, because she's trying to create her own message of hope now, she wrote the thing that her mum used to say, the whole no one's gone until they're gone.
Yeah.
And put that on there. And you'd had that bit where obviously Morgan and Al showed up and they were just staring at the tree and talking about moving forward. And you also got one last shot of Wes as well, wandering off, and he came across another one of these trees. And he stood by it and looked, and it was the tree actually from the beginning of the episode, the one where Alicia got surrounded by the walkers from the very start of the episode. He stopped there because there was blood on some of the writing. And he looked like he was going to cry. He just sort of looked at the tree and he got a bit...
But maybe that'll give him insight to realise and think, well, he could go back with those people, couldn't he? If he's got no one else to go to. If he's thinking good thoughts, not like, oh, I'm going to team up with Logan.
Yeah.
He's either going to go back to them at some point.
Yeah.
Or end up with Logan.
Yeah. So. Yeah, maybe we won't see him for a little while and then he'll show back up.
I don't think that's the end of him.
Hour.
I don't think they'd introduce somebody like that simply and just chuck him in the bin.
I hope not. But yeah, it was...
Who knows?
It was a very odd episode. Like I said, at points it was really cool. Said, the bit with the zombies and... just little bits and pieces, but then you had the weird little interaction with Logan, you had the weird story arc with Wes. I mean, there was just it was such a disjointed and odd episode.
I agree.
Well, anyway, that's Fear the Walking Dead, so hopefully it will be up again for next week's episode. So something that was more exciting, for sure, was Chapter 6 of Stranger Things Season 3, which was called Pluribus Unum.
Which means?
I can't remember.
You did look it up.
Do you know?
No, but
I thought you were going to tell me. I thought you were going to tell me. Well, it's clearly Latin.
Yes.
No, I thought you were going to say...
I think it's we all come together.
Well, it actually means out of many, one.
Same sort of thing.
Out of many, one. The motto of the US.
Yeah.
A motto of the United States, Latin for out of many, one. It refers to the union formed by the separate states. E Pluribus Unum was adopted as a national motto in 1776 and is now found on the Great Seal of the United States and on United States currency. there we
Right.
go.
Well, as we talk through this and get to the ending of this, it will be probably what I said.
Yeah. So we pick up.
We started with Dustin's gang in the underground lab still, looking through the window.
Really?
Yes,
Oh,
we did.
okay.
Yes, and they realised they'd been seen. They were looking at the gate, seeing it's like opening again, and they'd been spotted. So I put holy shit, because that's what Dustin kept saying.
Oh yeah, and then they had like a little chase sequence.
Holy shit! Holy shit! Holy shit! And then they were all running away, and they got into this room. Robin and Steve were holding the door, so the guys couldn't get in, and got Dustin and Erica to get away.
Yeah.
Which they got through another vent. But Robin and Steve got caught.
Yes, and then it was the hospital, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so the kids now know the monster's in there. And obviously, last time we saw Nancy and Jonathan, the two guys from the printing place, they had obviously been killed, and they they all slimed up and ended up coming down the corridors, which we had Nancy at one end and Jonathan at the other end. And it obviously became a monster, and then it decided to go towards Nancy, wasn't it?
Yes.
It was chasing after. Oh God, that was horrible. It was chasing after her. And then Jonathan realised he got something like a bat. I don't know. He got something. No, he got a fire extinguisher. He got something anyway. So she was running, and she got in a room thinking, "Oh, safe. I'm safe."
No.
And then it went, "Oh no, I can shimmy under the door." So the whole slimy. Oh.
And then as it came out the other side as the puddle, and then started reforming back into the monster again.
Yeah. So it reformed. Then it reformed into the monster.
Yeah.
And it just whacked her, didn't it? Instead of flying. And I thought it's going to get her. And it was like standing over her, going, like, I bet that stank.
Yeah.
Mouth breath on it. But all of a sudden, the door flew open, and because the kids had obviously been trying to get to upstairs to wherever they'd gone, the door flew over, and Elle was stood there. Oh, it was great. She was chucking it around the room like a nobody's business, wasn't she?
Yeah.
And then eventually it went flying out the window. So the kids ran downstairs, obviously ran outside to see what had happened to it, and then it slithered into the drain.
Yeah, because it was all like, because she really did a number on it, and it was all like mashed up. But then when it landed on the ground with a splat, it was all like, you're thinking, oh, that's the end of it. But then, like you said, it started moving again, and all of it turned liquidy again and just sort of drained down the drain and into the sewers.
Yeah, and then you saw it moving along, and then it joined up with the bigger bit. And then we saw Billy saying, "It is time."
Oh, I know, that was horrible.
So then we had the mayor organising his fun fair day, getting all like, "Okay, is this everything ready?" And he spotted the cyber soldier, didn't he? And they went to speak to him, and they were in, what's that thing we used to go on? Where you stand and hold on. Is it where you stand against the wall and it spins round?
Yeah, it's got numerous names, like Graviton and all these kind of things. But yeah, so like a wall of death.
Yeah, it was a wall of death, that's it. So he started talking to him in there and saying about he has to sort it all out, and about Hopper, and the fact he's got the scientists, and he was moaning at him, saying next time bring an army, not just you, and he battered him around, and the thing went off, didn't it? And they were spinning around in this thing while he was beating him up. So like, next time, bring more than... And he said, what do you mean? Said, we need backup. He said to the soldier guy, didn't he? It's like, we need more people. So it's like, oh. So back at the journalist's house, the secret journalist who doesn't like anyone to know he's there, Hopper had been out to get some snacks. And a Slurpee for Alexis.
Yeah, because luckily, because of Murray speaking Russian, they were like, right, well, we'll get you to translate, and we'll talk to Alexei, and we'll get information out of him about what the Russians are up to, and, you know, where their base of operation is, and what we have to do, and all of this kind of stuff. And he was obviously wanted food, so they'd gone on a run to get him food. I think did they go to Burger King? I'm sure
it was definitely something Burger King.
Yeah. And he got him a slush puppy, because as we mentioned in the previous episode, when they'd stopped at the 7-Eleven, he became obsessed with the slush puppy machine.
Yeah.
And so then that played in again to this episode, where Hopper got him a slush puppy, but it wasn't the right one.
So he's telling them stuff, and then he had a sip of this thing. Yeah. And he said something, blah, blah, blah. And he said, what did he say? He goes, he wanted...
Strawberry.
You got him strawberry, and he wanted cherry.
Yeah. And then Hopper just lost his temper at this point.
No, he said, no Slurpee, no help.
Yeah.
And he lost his temper with him, didn't he?
And it was the whole thing about like how it's the same thing. It's ice with artificial flavouring. There's no real cherries or real strawberries in it. It's the same flavouring. They just adapt it slightly. Blah blah blah. And he was just like ranting and raving to the point where eventually Alexi
He got so
gave
annoyed.
in.
He just no. What he did is he got so annoyed with him. He said, "You know what? Here's the keys. You go and get it yourself," and chucked him outside.
Mm.
And Joyce was going, and then Joyce and the other guy was going, "But you realise he'll escape?" And he goes, "He did escape when we had him before, and he wasn't in handcuffs then, and all this stuff." Blah
And
blah
he said
blah
it was
blah.
basically like, "I'm a cop. Trust me on this one."
He said, "You give him so many seconds, and he'll be back." He goes, "Are you sure? I just heard the car started. He's driving."
And he said, because he said about what was it? His cop brain basically was like, if we give him the illusion that we're letting him go.
Yeah,
But
won't
he's
go.
then going to realise that he can't go back because now they're after him
But he
because
said that
he's
to him,
been with
didn't he? He
us.
said he's a wanted man anyway, so he's
Yeah.
not going to go anywhere.
And then you're like, oh, he's wrong because then Alexei started the car up and looked like he had a big grin on his face and looked like he was going to drive away to freedom.
And Joyce was really panicking and opened the door, and he was still sat there.
Yeah, he'd got so far, he'd got to the gate and then he just stopped and he was just sat looking with his hands on the steering wheel. And then
He
Hopper...
got out, give him the keys, and Hopper was like, "Ah, I was right." And he said something in Russian, and he said to the journalist, "What did he say?" He says, "I like strawberry too."
Yeah, and then he sat down and just like started eating, like slurping the Slurpee.
That was ace.
We also got then a bit of information about what they were up to. He was trying to explain like the device and the what they're doing beneath the ground,
A
you know, in
doorway
their
between
base
worlds
and
or
stuff.
something,
Yeah.
isn't it?
And he was doing it, obviously, the explanation, they were like Murray was going, he's saying it's something, and they're like, what does that mean? And because even though he can translate, some of the words obviously just didn't translate properly into English. So he was saying, I think he's trying to tell us that this, and he was on about the key.
Because he said it was healing, but it's opening again, or something.
Yeah.
It was healing, but it's now opening again.
And about using a key and all of this stuff. And they're like,
well,
what
before he
does
said
that mean?
it's like, as soon as he said it was healing and it's opening again, Hopper kept seeing flashes of what happened when they tried to shut it.
That's
So he's
right.
thinking they know the consequences, the two of them.
Yeah.
And he was saying, well, I'll get you to the lab and we'll sort your key out. And then he turned around, someone said to Hopper that he was like a fat Rambo.
Yeah, that's right, he did.
And he was basically saying to him, it's not as easy, it's not easy. It's basically impossible what we're going to have to do.
Yeah.
So that was them. That was
And
them for
also,
time.
well, we may as well finish that bit. The bit where Joyce then phoned the US government.
Oh, no, first
Hopper
rang the
did.
lab.
Yeah, that's right.
He rang the lab, and the guy said, "Oh, don't be long because I'm incognito. I don't want anyone following my number." And he rang Philadelphia, was it? The public library.
Yeah.
He said, "Is that the public library?" And he said about Dr. Owen, and left him a message about the gate, and then gave out the private numbers for them to ring them back. And the journalist was saying, "You've compromised me now, blah, blah, blah." And then it was like 1 minute later, and she goes, "We haven't heard anything." And he goes, "Our children are at risk." And then she rang back and she goes, because obviously they used a code.
Yeah.
What was the code?
I can't remember.
It wasn't something cherry something. She goes, "I'm the second in command of so-and-so, and you get off your butt and you go round and see Dr. Owen and tell him he's got to sort it out and bring everything." And that, I mean, like, get on with it now. We haven't got time for this.
Well, because she was starting, obviously, because when they started piecing together what's actually going on here with the Upside Down and things like that, her immediate thought is worrying about Will, and his immediate thought is worrying about 11, and thinking, if they're doing something like this, it's going to involve our kids again. This has got even, it's an even bigger deal than we previously thought because we don't want our kids to be in jeopardy. So that's what spurred her on. And I love this because she'd done this previously in one of the episodes previously where I think it was like when they were in the woods, maybe that bit with her and Alexi and Hopper in the woods or something, and she put on her like mum voice and she was basically telling them off and shouting at them, and she did the same here down the phone, and she was like going, "You listen to me," rah, 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 rah. And it's like, wow, she's a badass. She just doesn't pull any punches, does she? And it's so funny.
It's hilarious.
And it's like just laying down the law and saying, this is how things are going to be. I'm telling you what's happening, sort of thing.
Just do as you're told, basically.
Yeah.
Then back in the underground place, we had Justin and Erica hiding, and him updating her about everything. about what happened previously, and she believed everything, but the fact that brother Lucas was involved.
Yeah, that's right. She couldn't believe that he would be brave enough or whatever to be involved in all of
Just
that.
like, hey, you believe everything else I just said, but not the fact that your brother Lucas was involved. And she went,
Mm.
yeah, no way, that didn't happen, and all this stuff. And then he was trying to do something. I don't know what he was trying to do, and she was like going through all these statistics, saying statistically, blah 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 blah. And he goes, "You're such a nerd." And she
No,
went,
no, stop, wait. No, he did, yeah, she was doing that and she rattled off all these calculations and stuff and he stopped and he turned very slowly and did his big Dustin grin and he went, "You're a nerd."
and
Like,
she
because
was
she's
offended
always,
by
because
that.
that's what she's always calling them and she's like, "You take that back." And he's like, "No." And he's like, let's get, discover all the facts here. And he's like, advanced knowledge of mathematics and science, blah, blah, blah. And he's like reeling off all of these things. And he's like, ergo equals you are a nerd. And she's like, "Rrr," and this it was so funny because
That was
it's like she's
hilarious.
always being like calling them nerds and being really like mean to them because
Yeah.
of all their Dungeons and Dragons and all of this lot. And then he's like, "You're like us. You just don't want to admit
You
it."
just don't want to admit it, yeah. So meanwhile, we saw Steve in the room getting beaten up by this guy asking him, "Who are you?
Oh.
What did you work for?" And he's going about work for Scoop. And he was interrogating him, and he wasn't believing him, was beating him up, and then she got put right into the room, and he was all beaten up, and they tied them both up, left him in the room.
Yeah.
So then, meanwhile, back at Joyce's house, the rest of the gang, Elle was doing her water walking, as I class it.
This was
Trying to,
brilliant because, yeah, if I can just talk about this bit, because this is the image I found as well for this episode, was,
right.
so you had, like you say, they were all at the house, and that, oh yeah, Mike kind of admitted he loved Elle, but not,
Yeah, he
like,
was worried about her health, and then he was saying he loved her,
yeah,
and he said it out loud. And then she came in the room, didn't she? And it says, "I found them."
yes, and she did her, like you said, water walking thing, she used her powers, to try, what she wanted to do was to try and work out where they were based, to try and communicate somehow with Billy and find out where the Mind Flayer was set up and things like that. So it was all very weird because you had the whole bit where she was in the darkness place and then she saw him sat on his bed.
Well, yeah, because the first time she came out of it, she'd said he sat at home on his bed, and the sister was going, "What? It's 4th of July or some sort of day. Why would he be stuck at home on his own?" And because I don't know, but she's going in again. She said, "I know it's probably a trap, but I need to go in."
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she basically was going to do what she did with her mum.
Mm-hmm.
So she went in and she saw him sat on his bed in his room, and she started talking to him, and he just didn't acknowledge her. And she grabbed his hand, and as she did, he sort of grabbed her back
And looked at
and
her.
as she did, yeah, and looked at her, and as he did, she fell as if she was falling backwards.
And then she fell as if she was falling into an abyss or something.
Yeah, and as she was seeing stuff, wasn't she?
And then she ended up
On
on
a
a beach. And it was very weird. And you're like, what? And she stood like, where am I? And she's looking around and she's on a beach and it's a nice sunny day. And, you know, the sea is fine. In the distance, she sees this woman. And then
Who she thinks at the time is looking at her and smiling at her.
yeah, so then for a minute, you're thinking, is this something to do with like her memories or something?
Yeah.
But then it turns out she's calling to somebody and there's this kid. And this kid comes out of the sea with a surfboard and it's like, Mom, did you see that? And all of this stuff. And basically, the long and the short of it is it transpires that little boy is Billy.
It's Billy.
And he's there with his mum and he's really happy.
He's been surfing or something and she's really proud of him and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's like, this is really bizarre. Why is she seeing this memory?
Yeah.
And she's...
But then she could see something in the foreground, didn't she? Behind, she says, "I can see the source."
Yeah, because she was talking out loud, wasn't she? And he kept... Didn't you see the others? And Max was like, I know what this is, what this day is, or something.
Yeah.
So
she started walking up this beach, and as she did, she saw Billy and his mean dad.
Yeah, the mum sort of disappeared, didn't she? And the dad was there.
And then there was a bit with the dad and the mum fighting.
Yeah.
And then there was Billy being a bully, I think it was, not him being the bully.
Yeah.
It was the other way around. And then the thing with dad and the Max, this is your new sister.
Mm.
And then basically, then she saw the thing that happened to him at the beginning, went to the car.
Yeah.
And she ended up at the steelworks.
Because it was so cool, because as this scene changed, because clearly the mum died, and this was a turning point in Billy's psyche, where he went from being obviously a carefree, happy little boy to then having all of these issues with the dad, who was obviously an abuser, bringing in this, this new sister from his new relationship, who Billy clearly resented. Billy then taking out his at-home feelings of abuse and stuff on other kids and turning into a nasty piece of work. And as all this was happening, the sky was changing, clouds were rolling in. There was a storm. It looked like there was a big, almost like a tornado or something, wasn't there, in the distance? And it started getting darker and darker and going red. And she kept pushing through the wind and everything, trying to get further into this. I need to go further into his psyche. And then she came out, like you said, and it was the steelworks.
She mentioned where the steelworks were, and at that time, the ones in the room got the phone book out and said, it's Cherry Lane or something. That's not far from here.
Yeah.
And then it looked like she was falling back up.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went, oh, phew. And then she went, Mike, and there was no one in the room. And then all of a sudden, damn, she's still there because he was there.
And he
she hadn't come out of it at all.
Yeah.
And he said, he says, he sees her.
Mm-hmm. And then he said that it was all of this that they were doing was for her.
Yeah.
That she was like, she'd opened the gate and this was all for her. What they were doing was for her. And it's like, what? That's weird.
Yeah, you let us in and you let us, and now we're staying and we're doing this for you. And then eventually he said something about we'll end you. Yeah, we're building it for you and then we'll end you and then everyone.
And we'll kill everyone.
And then she woke up out of it.
Screaming.
And they were all still in the living room with her.
So
that was so cool, the way that looked like, oh, wow, she's back. And then like, oh, shit, she's back.
Yeah, she's still there. And yeah, when she did come out of it, she was sweating, she was screaming, her nose was bleeding loads. And they were all like around her going, are you okay? And she's like, like really like panicking, like he's coming for us. He knows where we are now. Yeah. And all of this lot. And it's like, oh, man, that's not good at all.
But before we get to the ending of that, we need to go back into where the guys were.
Yeah.
Because obviously Justin and that then got found. Oh, yeah. Was it the bit where they said that they were going to get a doctor to Steve? And she was like, oh, you're going to get a doctor. And the doctor was going to give him some injection or something.
Yeah, that's right.
And he's like, no. And then whatever he did to her. No, but was it before that she said something about, we found out through the coding, we found out about, he goes, how do you know about us? And she goes, it was the code. Robin said, but then they still want to know more. So they put the injection in both of them and left them. And then they were all like giddy, weren't they, laughing?
Yeah. And was that also...
They were high off it all.
Was that the moment when she then talked to him about when they were at school?
Yeah, she started telling about but she used to know who he was and stuff like that.
And he never noticed her, and she said about some teacher, and he went, wait, you were in that class? And she was like, yeah, I was sat so many rows back from you. And she was like, I used to always stare at you. And she was like, you were always so popular and all of this. And so you're getting this feeling of like, oh...
She likes him.
She likes him. She used to fancy him, but he never noticed her. And then he was like, I'd notice you now and stuff like this.
Yeah.
And he was like, basically admitting, yeah, I was a bit of a douchebag back then. But I'm not the same person now as I was back then, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that was a cool little moment, but they were both giggly and laughing because obviously they were drugged, and it's like that was funny as well because I remember when we watched it at the time, and Zoe was like, "Yeah, that's really not a good idea to give drugs to teenagers because they're just, they're just going to enjoy it."
And obviously, while they were in that room, Dustin and Erica got out of that wherever they were, and they found this cart that drives around the facility, and she saw this big cage and she said, how big is this monster thing? And while he was trying to find a key in this little cupboard for the cart, she found this massive stun gun thing. She goes, well, you never know.
That was brilliant. That was great when she had that. Yeah.
So basically they were in the room laughing, obviously, and the guy decided came in with, it's all right, no, we're not getting anywhere with these two. And was that the time when was it when they were giddy that they did? That was when they did it, wasn't it? Because they were trying to get to the side to get something to free them, and the chair
fell over.
Yeah. And anyway, when they came back in, the doctor had all these like torturous knives and stuff, and he was was he going to cut his fingernails or something off?
Yep.
And that's when she told him about the code, and then it was and then some alarm went off, and the guy went out, said like, what's going on? And then Dustin arrived somehow, and he had the prod thing that little girl had found. and electrocuted them and rescued them.
Yeah, I mean, that's what all the commotion was. They went to see what the commotion was, and it turned out the commotion was Erica and Dustin coming to the rescue.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just brilliant. It was so funny.
So that was, I think that's all happened with them, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
and that was basically where we left off with them, that they rescued them, and then they were like, we need to get out of here. And then that was kind of, was, the whole base is on alert now. We need to try and escape.
So basically, at the end of the episode, we had the fairground, because obviously, so we got Hopper and his wife going towards, Hopper and Joyce heading towards the fairground.
Mm-hmm.
Then something happened, and all the people that were, like I said it last week, they were people that we didn't realise had been taken over.
Yeah.
There was a man doing a barbecue, and she was going, "Hey, the sausages," and he walks away, little boy saying, "Hey, we're going to play," and all the people that were affected by this thing started walking away from it, didn't they? Rolled away from the fair into the place. Then they walked all the way to where that place was, and then you saw this massive monster, huge it was by now. And as they walked towards it, they all mushed up and slithered and added to it.
Oh, I know. And it's now fully formed, isn't it? It's no longer like forming. It was like it's solid now.
And it got out.
And it broke up through the basement level up to the next level.
Yeah, and it's out.
Oh,
like,
no.
Oh! But yeah, very good. Can't wait next week.
So there we go. So that was another exciting installment of Stranger Things. So we will talk about the chapter 7 next week. Okay, so episode 5 of Preacher season 4 is entitled Bleak City. And this was a very good episode.
Absolutely. Action-packed. So we started the episode, we were watching, it was like a tourist video of Australia, showing all the beautiful parts of Australia. And intermittently, in between every single shot of Australia, were rugby shots.
Yes.
Fighting men, and then lovely pieces, and fighting men. And then then we saw at the end, it was like the tourist information about, is it Melbourne?
Yeah.
And then we saw bodies and tongues and blood everywhere. And there was Eugene kneeling down praying and saying, "The Lord is my shepherd." And the saint just sitting there waiting on a chair.
Yeah.
So he was this, and is that what he said? Are you waiting to hear? He's waiting basically for him to use Genesis because he doesn't know where he is until he does it.
Yeah.
Then we had Jesse in a hire car place trying to he said he wanted to get to the lost apostle. And this geeky little young guy, stuttering guy called Jackson, was telling me all about this was quite interesting because obviously this could come into play. But the bionic ear was invented there.
Yeah, that's right.
And my first thought was like, oh, we know somebody that needs one.
Yeah, that was a very interesting little bit of information that seems pointless, but...
Yeah, but possibly not. So he was processing it, and an alert came up on the computer about Jesse. And Jackson, who was stuttering, said he can't help Jesse. And he said about a boat, and he said, no, they're reserved for Mother's Day. And then he said to him, whatever you were reading about me on that computer, it's not true, blah, blah. And he said, I'll leave it to your own decision. He said, I have these powers. I can tell you give me the car. But I'm not going to do that. He said, I don't want to use it unless I have to use it. And I'm prepared for you to make your own mind up whether you want to lease me the car.
Yeah.
And then he decided to let him have the car. But as he walked out, he looked at him and went, Jackson, you don't stutter.
And because he used the voice...
It alerted the saint. So then you get Jesse going out and obviously doing the thing with a remote key thing to find the car it was.
Yeah.
And getting in the driver's side as if he was in America. And I go, the wheel's the other side. Because obviously they're the same as us. So it's like, that was quite hilarious. Like, okay, get in the other side, and then looking around the car. And so anyway, finally he started the car, and it was a massive car park, wasn't it? It was like going down and down. It was taking forever to get out of it. And he got to the bottom, and just as he was coming out, he nearly went into a lorry. It's like, whoa, stopped the car suddenly. And then then Eugene appeared, and then he spotted Eugene, and he went, Eugene? And then Eugene shouted, get out, or get out of here, or run, or something, didn't he? Yeah,
because you heard gunshots and things, and Eugene looked to the side of him, obviously back where the noise was coming from, looked back at Jesse and went, go, get out of here. And so Jesse put his foot down and pulled out, and off he went. And as he did, the saint came out of the car rental office. So he'd obviously gone in and killed poor
The poor
Jackson.
chap, yeah.
And he was
And
stood
then, but
there
he
and he
couldn't get a
looked.
shot, could he? Because as he went to shoot, he went round the corner. So
And
it's
he
like,
and then he grimaced and looked at Eugene, and Eugene was kind of like almost shrugged his shoulders, like as if to say,
I don't know. And all the way he was driving along, going, "Oh, Eugene, he can look after himself. If he was going to kill him, he would have killed him by now."
Yeah.
No, I'm all right. I'm going to keep going. And he got to driving along, and they got to a crossroads, and he thought it's all clear, and went to drive. And as soon as he did, another lorry came in front of him and nearly killed him.
Isn't that interesting though?
I was like, is that in a moment?
Yeah, why did that happen twice where a big truck came careering in front of him? It's like, I wondered whether there was
wonder who's playing with their lorries at home.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well.
So it's like, it's determined not to let him go. So he went, and then he decided, okay, I'll go back.
Yes.
Go back to get Eugene.
So he turned around and went back.
And headed back. Meanwhile, Cassidy had obviously flown away with the angel, and he ended up back in the hotel bar that they were in originally, and drinking. And then Tulip and Jesus turned up.
Yep.
And then she had a big grin, a big cuddle. They started drinking and chatting. And then Jesus decided to play on asteroids.
Oh, that was brilliant. Just that image of Jesus sat at an arcade machine, just sat playing this game was brilliant. It was so funny.
That's not the picture you used, is it?
No.
No. But yeah, that was great. So he was just sitting there quite happily. And then sort of catching up on stuff and saying about what he did. And then he said, yeah, that doesn't compare with you and the thing with the Hitler thing and on the bus and blah, blah, blah. So then the angel turned up and he went up to the barman and he said, I'm looking for a shit, a shave and a shower.
Yeah.
And a phone. As he looked at him, he said he had to get in touch with a certain lady.
Yeah.
So he disappeared. But as he went past Jesus, he stared at Jesus. Jesus stared at him. I was thinking,
It was weird, wasn't it? Because it was the way that they just kind of looked at each other and then they sort of went, like paused. And then the angel sort of turned tail quickly and rushed away, and Jesus just went back to playing the computer game
Carried
again.
on playing the games, yeah. So Cass was chatting to Tulip and saying about Jesus being a handsome devil. And she was going, oh yeah, it's not too bad. And then he's asked about Jesse, and she was like, bit. And then the guy behind the bar had his phone, didn't he? And he said, you need to look at this. And it said something about, oh no, before that she had said, did you tell Jesse that you and me had sex? And he was going, no. And she was going, you sure you did?
I won't be mad.
I won't be mad. Seriously. And then he sort of went, I did. And then she punched him.
Yep.
That's so hilarious. And then the guy behind the bar said, you need to see this. And there was a story on the news about this Jesse guy had killed all these sex tourists.
Which was interesting because previously when we'd seen Jesse in the car, he had the radio on, didn't he? And it came on the news saying about this worldwide manhunt for this depraved preacher.
Yeah.
And so then it was the same news report, but this time obviously it was an American journalist. And yeah, they were saying innocent sex tourists.
Sex tourists.
The way it framed it was like, all these people were just there.
There was like a Shetland pony and everything wandering around the crowds. I thought, that was hilarious. So they were looking like, oh. Then we went to Masada, where the maid knocked on the door and said, Jesus, room service. And then she realised Jesus had gone and she went, Jesus!
Yeah.
Jesus.
And he did the old trick, didn't he, where he'd stuffed the bed full of pillows to make it look like he was in the bed.
Yeah, it's hilarious. So then Star's woman had gone to see him and saying that she had seen him, and Hoover was there, and she was saying she was ready to die. She knows she'd messed up and he was going to kill her. And then the phone rang. And so he handed the gun to the other guy. And she was like, what she was saying to him at the time, you're not authority. You haven't got the authority to shoot me.
Yeah, and she's like, I don't want you to kill me. I want him to get... Because obviously she's always been obsessed with her star. She's always had this weird thing where she's almost like she's in love with him. And it's like, if anybody's going to kill me, he's going to kill me. Not you new guy, lackey. And he's like, hey, just stand still and all of this lot. And then...
He had 2 phone calls. The first one, I can't remember what it was. The second one was about Hitler. But what was the first one? Or was that to do with Jesus had gone missing? Yeah, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, no, it was, yeah. Because
she didn't know that at the time, did she?
No, that's right, because she came in to say she was apologising and saying she'd let him down because of not catching...
And Cassidy got away and everything.
Cassidy got away, she couldn't capture Tulip and all of this lot. And then he got the phone call to let him know that Jesus was missing. And he said, oh, he's probably gone off. Have you looked in the leper wing? Have you looked at, and he's like, he likes to do all of those kind of things. So check all those places. And then, he came off the phone and was going to turn back to it. And then he got another phone call. And then that again
He said,
distracted
"Where's
it.
Hitler?"
And she made a getaway, didn't she?
Yeah, she overpowered the other guys, chucked herself out the window, and then did her flying squirrel thing
Yeah.
and flew away. So then he went to find Hitler, who was playing squash with some woman.
Yeah, I never worked out who that woman was meant to be. She was like an older woman.
Yeah,
And yeah, he came in and he just
some
sort of
Fräulein.
knocked her down and then oh yeah, and then he attacked Hitler, didn't he? He like grabbed
Yeah,
the racket and he was smacking him
smashed it
with
all
it.
over him.
And it's like, do you realise this guy's like in charge of hell now, so he's probably got like supernatural powers now and stuff like that. And you're like
Yeah,
battering him and telling him off and saying, what have you done, and all this stuff about the Messiah. But then they got cross purposes, didn't they? Because Hitler
started
said,
talking about Humperdoo.
yeah, and he was like, and then Hastar looked at him as if to say, wait a second, what are you talking about? Like, it's almost like you're not talking about what I'm talking about.
No,
And then Hitler was like, you're not talking about what I'm talking about. There was like this
yeah.
weird moment where they sort of
They
stopped
looked at
and
each
stared
other.
at each other. And
Mm.
then Hastar was like, it's really important. We need the Messiah and all of this. So things can't be messed up. And
Apocalypse can't get mashed up or something, didn't he?
yeah. So
And
he
he
left
walked
the room
off,
and then Hitler was on the floor and he sort of then
looking.
narrowed his eyes and looked a bit like, grrr, like angry sort of thing.
So then back in the Melbourne City, we saw Eugene again praying all over these dead bodies,
Yeah, more dead bodies, yeah.
and the saint was saying that he knew Jesse would come back for him.
Mm-hmm.
He said he won't. He'll come back for you. I know he will. And then we saw Jesse at a builder's yard,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, what's he up
It
to?
was weird the way they
Uh,
shot this scene as well, because you had him like you just saw the fence, so the camera stayed on the outside of the fence of the builders, like
yeah,
the
you could
building
just see through
site.
his slats, couldn't you?
And it was so funny. My thought here was, I thought, he's going to see Skippy because Skippy works in like construction and demolition and stuff.
He comes up everywhere. He was on the beach last week.
Yep. And then you
He's
got
in
this
this
like
episode.
there was like a hole in the wood, so you got to see Jesse appear, and then he was like, "I need to talk to you all," and like he used the voice, didn't he, to sort of
Yeah.
speak to the builders, and
And
then
then we saw Eugene and the saint the other side of the fence.
mm,
And he let Eugene go in. He went in, and then the camera moved, and you could see the both of them. And then we heard something, and then the next thing,
smash,
a
and the
wrecking
wrecking
ball.
ball, yeah, and it just like knocked
The
him
saint went
flying,
flying.
came straight through the fence, and he was gone. And then Eugene and Jesse emerged, and he was like, "Quickly, quickly, come on!" And they went and got in a car.
And then we saw the saint's hat, and then we saw him pick the hat up. Thought, oh shit, he's not dead.
Yeah, it's like he is like a supernatural being. You can't just kill him like that. It's not that easy.
So when we went back to the hotel where Kaz was trying to say to
Tulip.
Tulip about like we've got to go and help the boy, help your man, and she said no, don't want to help. I'm going to hang out with Jesus.
Yeah, so me and Jesus are going to Vegas.
Yeah, and then she said, oh, I've got a car to sort out. So she went off to her car to sort her car out, and then Jesus came out and she started talking about the car, which she didn't know anything about. And she said, you still want to go? And then he says, well, yeah. She goes, have you got stuff to do? And you go, oh, yeah. He said, well, I don't really have anything to do. We've got a conference, but
Oh, and it was
no.
really sad because that was the point where he said like he was talking about not being needed much anymore, and that
Yeah.
for first thing he's had to do for 2,000 years, and the whole thing about his son and all of this kind of stuff, and yeah, you just felt really sorry for him because he was just kind of like, well, there's this conference and stuff, but maybe we could do something fun. And he's again very innocent, very like, yeah, well, why not? Let's.
And he said, is your demonic friend, this was when they were in the garage, wasn't it? He said, did you say demonic one?
No, what did he call him? The unrepentant one or
Yeah,
something one?
Yeah, is he joining? And she goes, yeah, probably, I don't know. And so that left it like that for the time being.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, in the actual hotel, the Birdman came back in all suited and booted. He said he's up for a bit of passion.
And he done. What did he say? He like done his hair and everything, and then he said 666, and then he said about a hot date, and he was really nervous. And Cassidy's like, "What have you got to be nervous about?" And he's like, "We haven't seen each other for a long time." And he's like, and he's like, "Well, where are you meeting her?" And, oh, she's coming here. And he's like, "Oh, okay." And then they were talking about relationships, and then the
And he was
angel.
trying to say about tulips, wasn't he? Saying, "Oh, you should be after this. Look at her lovely skin." And he got really annoyed. He's got like, "She's not my girl.
She's my best mate's girl."
Yeah. So I this is where I surmised that the angel was a fallen angel.
Well, he then said as much,
Well, he
didn't he?
said that, and that's what I was thinking. That's why when Jesus looked at him, he remembered him, but didn't sort of like, are you who I think you are? Because he'd been cast out of heaven, hadn't he?
Yeah.
And then his date arrived, and then we had my favourite tune.
Oh, it was brilliant, because I was then sat there going, wait, they've taken a leaf out of Good Omens book.
Yeah,
And
I know.
having the
They had a
Queen,
Queen song,
yeah, Love of My
Love
Life.
of My Life, and they were dancing, and that was cool. I
It was
loved that bit.
so
It's like,
funny, because like the lighting went down and it was almost like a spotlight on them two dancing together, him and this woman.
and Kaz was just sitting there watching them all.
And then at the end of
It's
the
like,
dance, the angel's wings came out and embraced her. And
embraced
then
her.
a tail came out from under her dress. And you're like, she's a demon.
Oh. So then we didn't go back to that straight away.
No.
We went then. We had a brief bit with Eugene and Jess, who grabbed a car,
Mm-hmm.
and then he sat there and did his apology.
Yeah.
Jess did his apology to Eugene, saying he should have done it, and you should rely on your preacher.
And
And
said about how Eugene was such a good Christian. And he said, everything that's happened to you, Eugene. And he said, you came to me, you relied on me, and I let you down. And he's like, your own preacher sent you to hell. And he's like, I can't imagine what that would have been like. And he's like, basically explaining that it was while he was still trying to get to grips with the powers. He didn't know that would happen, but he was really sorry, and that Eugene was a really good person. He kept reiterating how good a person Eugene is and how good a Christian he is.
and he was crying when
And
he
yeah, and then he said, I'm sorry. I said, Eugene, I'm really sorry. And then he was like, you apologized to me. And he's like, thank you. And he was just sort of looking at him like,
wow.
Okay, I don't know what else to say now. And
then Jess said, there he goes, right, because he got that out of the way, and he like pulled the thing off the car. He goes, I've seen Tulip do this loads of times.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, which wire is it? And then he set off the alarm inside of the then like, get out of the car and run again.
And run away.
Oh my days,
yeah.
Hilarious. Then we went back to Jesus and Tulip. This time they were sat in the car smoking a joint.
Oh, that was so funny. Jesus laid out in the back of the car.
Smoking this joint, talking about Jesus, and he was talking about his sins. He'd made us 1, 2 sins, or maybe 3 sins, and then he said about his son Humperdoo and being the best, because his father loves him more than him because he's innocent. Because like he is, because simple, isn't he? So simple is, simple as, and like you say, Forrest Gump. And then she was started cussing God, and he's like, please don't say that.
Yeah, because she tells him, she says, look, your dad said, I'm sorry to say this, but he's an arsehole. She's like, all the things he's done, and he's like, don't. And he got really serious, and he was like, don't ever say that. And she's like, well, I'm sorry, but yeah, again, it was one of those moments where you felt sorry for him because he's just feeling like a spare part. And he's like, I came down here, and he said, basically I was flawed because I was human, because I had the same, although I'm heavenly being, I'm also a normal human man.
Yeah.
And I wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough for my father, and that's why he likes Humperdoo so much, because Humperdoo is just completely like a blank slate. Because she's like looking as if like he's an idiot. Like Humperdoo's like an idiot. And he's like, yeah, but he's innocent.
Yeah.
He might be an idiot, but because he's an idiot, because he's so simple, he's like a real innocent blank slate, and that's what God wanted. Whereas, I was like a normal man.
It was quite sweet, wasn't it?
Mm.
And then it said like, kept beeping the horn, it didn't come out, and then Jesus got out the back seat and got in the front seat.
Yeah.
And they just went, right, off we go. So she buggered off and left Cass.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, back in the bar, noisy sex was ensuing, and
Yes.
the bar was smashing around, and the poor guy was worried about his bed. The
Yeah.
bed is going to break.
The angel and the demon were having literal earth-shattering sex, because the whole bar, like that, it wasn't even just like they were making a lot of noise. The whole place was shaking.
The whole place was shaking, yeah. And then Cass was talking about Han Solo.
Yeah, because he started talking about his decision about doing the right thing, and he started comparing his situation between him, Jesse, and Tulip with Star Wars, and he's like saying who he is and about being Han Solo, and he's like, I could have taken that briefcase of rebel gold, but instead I turned around and did the right thing and went back to the Death Star and helped me mate and all this lot. And he's like,
and the old boys look at him and goes, you've seen Star Wars? And he went, moving pictures are offensive to Allah.
Yeah. So it's like completely didn't get the reference
I was totally
at all.
wasted on that guy, wasn't it?
Oh, it was so funny.
It was funny. So then we went back to Tulip again, and they was driving along, and she's going, about what we're going to do? And she's going to do all sorts of things, watch TV, get stoned, rob a bank. And then Jesus started looking out the window. And then
imagining.
we saw this scene where they went into a bank. He had a big, massive gun. Mm-hmm. She said they were getting everyone on the floor. She went off to the vault. This guy said Jesus, and he said so about the guts will hit the wall. It's exactly what she'd said.
Yeah.
And the guy said something else, and he shot him
by accident. He accidentally
Yeah.
shot him in the leg, and then he's like,
And then
Jesus, you shot me, and then he's like, and then it faded back to
fed
him in
back
the
to his
car
car.
again.
He's thinking, I don't think this is for me.
Hmm.
It's like, oh.
And then he
So
was
that-
then saying about them needing him, and it's the first time I've been needed in 2,000 years. That's what my role for this conference was. It was important. You know, my father finally gave me a job to do.
Yeah.
And she's like, you're not really talking about going back, are you? What about, you know, free will and going on living our lives and getting away from all of this and not being...
And Las Vegas. So then,
yeah, and he's like,
actually,
I don't know. And the next thing you see the car turning round and heading back to
headed back
Masada
to
again.
Masada. Yeah. And then meanwhile in the hotel, Catherine, the Birdman, once he'd finished with his missus and she came back and sat down, he started chatting to him. And that's when he told him about she was a demon, didn't he?
Yeah, and he pulled a sword out.
Mm.
And he put the sword on the bar, and then Kaz is like talking to him. Kaz is sort of saying about his dilemma and about doing the right thing and what, you know, about things to do with
He
love.
said, you're still here. And he said, yes, I listened to you about love.
Yeah.
And that's when the angel sort of lost it, didn't he? And he got the big sword out and thought, what am I doing? He said, you know, I've got to give him the wrong message, basically, hasn't he? He's felt like he'd told him the wrong thing.
And then without a second's notice, he swiveled round and flung the sword, and it went right through her head. And Cassidy was like, what the hell are you doing? And he was like, well, she is a demon after all, you know. And then and then there was a flash of light, and then she came down from the roof, and then chaos ensued, and then there was just loads of fighting.
Chaos.
And it was brilliant because, like, every time one or the other killed the other, they came back again. So there were all these... And it's like we've seen this before, actually. We saw this in the first couple of seasons when we had the angels in it. And it was like every time they died, they left behind a body and came back in a new body.
Yeah.
So this bar was gradually just filling up with bodies of these two same people who kept returning and kept returning. Mental.
And the music was cool.
Yeah, I think it was the White Stripes, I think.
Yeah, I meant to look it up, but I thought I was just enjoying the tunes, like yeah.
Yeah. So that was really good fun.
We went back to Tulip, and Jesus apologising to her about not going to Las Vegas, and she said, "Well, actually, it's rubbish there.
Yeah."
And he said, "I've got to go and sort the conference out." So he got out the car, and he said, "What are you going to be doing?" She goes, "Oh, just go and do what I said I was going to do. Just enjoy myself." And then, okay, and he saw him walking through a field, and then she looked at the letter she got from Jessie.
Yeah.
And the next thing we knew she was going to head back towards Cass. And then when she got there, he was decided, I can't deal with this, and he was all dressed up in Arab stuff to keep him from getting sunburnt.
Yeah, so he had like a head.
Could see him going slowly out of the hotel, and all this massacre was still going on, and the music was still playing. And he opened the door. And then she was there.
Yep. And she's like, what's going on in there? And he's like, oh, just an angel and a demon fighting. And she's like, oh, right, okay. Just really like matter of fact, like, oh, right, okay.
And then she goes, are you ready? And he said, yep. And then they started talking about Australia, didn't they? About all the things in Australia. They've got alligators and they've got bats and the koalas have chlamydia. And he said, that's the saying. What was the saying of what was the episode called?
Bleak City.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said, it's a bleak city.
Yep.
And they just drove off. So that was the end of them lot.
Yep.
So, meanwhile, because obviously the car thing didn't work. We had Jesse beating up a copper, Eugene watching him, like, oh, and he goes, don't worry, he's alive.
Yeah, I didn't kill him, it's fine.
Just
and
get in the car.
Take the police
get in the
car.
And then Eugene stooped down for something and then got in the back seat. So he didn't think anything of it. So they're driving along, and then the next thing we hear, all ports bulletin, all the radios, and the saint and the poor bloke that he'd killed, strung him upside down, and he was listening, and they were asking where each car was, and isn't it Jesse must have answered one of those?
Yeah, because they kept saying the call sign over and over, and nobody was answering.
Yeah, and he heard him.
And then finally a voice came, and it's like, oh, that's clearly Jesse pretending to be the police officer.
So it's like, I know where they are, and then. They were driving along, and then Eugene, he said, oh, get out of here and we'll ditch his car or whatever. And Eugene's sitting in the back, and then he started saying about the apology, and then saying basically the apology, that you think that's enough.
Because he said, that's all I ever wanted. He said, all I ever wanted up until now was the apology, and that's what I thought I needed. But now you've given me the apology. And he's like, and I really appreciate the apology. And then he sort of changed, but then he was like, but that's not enough. And he was like saying, I want more. And he's like, I don't think an apology, you sent me to hell, you did this, you did that. And he's like, I don't think just an apology is going to cut it. And then he pulled out the gun.
At the gun and shot Jesse, and then we see the car career sort of round and stop somewhere.
And that was the end of that.
That was that. And then we went back to Masada, and we had Hitler and her star ready for the conference and waiting. I think he's not going to turn up. And then Jesus walks in.
Yep. And this is the picture I've got. The picture I've got of this scene, this image of her star, the All-Father, in the centre, and then on one side is Jesus and the other side is Hitler, and they get the introduction to each other, and Hitler puts out his hand and Jesus looks at him and goes, I know what you've done. I know what you've done. I know the things that you have done. I'm not going to shake your hand. Yeah. And then Hitler goes, oh, like that. And then he's like, but I am the Redeemer after all, so I'll give you a hug instead.
And then he said, so, let's begin.
And they opened their books.
They sat down.
And then that was the end of that.
So then we went back to Jesse and the car, crawling out the car, crawling and crawling. And then did we hear Eugene saying something?
Yeah, Eugene basically saying about, what did he say? Something about a gunshot or something. I can't remember what he said specifically. And then didn't he say something like a bullet to the head? There's nothing better than a bullet to the head or something like that. Yeah. And then he kicked Jesse, because Jesse was crawling on his front, and they kicked him over, and Eugene was stood over him, and then the camera panned, and then you saw he wasn't the only one stood over him, was he?
No, the saint was there.
So this has clearly been a plan all along. Yeah.
I was really shocked. I was thinking, oh my days, Eugene, seriously?
Yeah, Eugene was in league with the saint the whole time.
Even though he disagrees with the saint killing everybody like he's been doing, and he's been praying over them. Mm-hmm. It's like, why would he do that?
Yeah.
And I
was, especially considering earlier on, like a couple of episodes back, when he was talking to the saint and he was saying about, you're not going to kill him, are you? Wouldn't an apology be enough and stuff? But clearly having that conversation...
Because he said apology wasn't enough, and that's what he got in his head.
Yeah, exactly.
When he got the apology, that in his head, then it wasn't enough.
No.
It's like, oh, he's corrupted him, hasn't he? It's like, so I can't wait till next week.
So that was how it ended. The shot sort of panned out, and you just had Jesse laid on the ground with them two standing either side of him.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God.
It was such a good episode. I was so excited. So good.
It was brilliant.
Chapter.
Totally. So there we go. So that's all of our shows for this week, folks. So hopefully you've enjoyed this week's episode. And if you have, please hit that thumbs up button and leave us a like. And also leave your comments down below so we know what you think. And also if you've got any questions or any feedback or anything for us, then please do that. Also, hopefully the audio has been alright this week because we've tried a slightly different recording method. So hopefully it doesn't sound odd or weird. But if it does, then please forgive us for that. And also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please subscribe. That would be fantastic to have you added to the ranks of this ever-growing Geek-Dom. And check out my description box for the link to my Twitter, so you can come and chat to me and follow me on there. And the donation mediums, if you should feel kind enough to donate to the future of the channel and the podcast and allow us to do bigger and better things. But at the same time, you're under no obligation to do so. And that will do us. So thank you once again very much for joining me this week, Mother. And I hope that you have a very nice little break away.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was good. Good chat.
And we will resume and have lots more things to talk about next week.
Yes, indeed.
So you all take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, 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 bye.